the understandings that can be had through the study of the Dharma, through the study of the teaching, and the understandings that can be had by paying attention and applying the teachings to what's happening is helpful, it's very useful. But what it really comes down to is the practice. And that's why Zen is appealing to me, because the word Zen means meditation. And in the Zen teaching and practice, what they say is that meditation is a vehicle for awakening. And then they go on to say that to simply be relaxed physically with your back straight, sitting in a posture that you can maintain comfortably and not move, and then noticing the thinking activity and simply moving attention to the breath and to the body. And so we're being aware of the body. We're being aware of the thinking activity. And what they say in the practice, what they say in the Dharma, the Zen approach, is if you do this with consistency, if you do this with sincerity, if you do this in earnest, if you do this over time, if you do this with an understanding that it is not a doing, it's a being. So the word doing becomes a convention, not an actuality. If you do this with the understanding that this is a way of being that we're practicing, this is being that we're practicing. And I can testify, I can tell you that this is real. This is not an illusion. This is not some altered state. This is actual. This is real. I find in my own experience that, when we ordinarily in the normal course of events, what determines the quality of our lives? Ordinarily in the normal course of events, what determines the quality of our lives? You could say that it's our conditioning, it's who we habit that we are. It's being a person, you could say, being a person. Being the person you're being determines the quality of your life, right? If you're being an unhappy person, you'll be unhappy, right? If you're being a emotionally disturbed person, then that's going to have an effect on the quality of your life. So the being of a person, that's a conditioned reality that happens over many, many years, is one factor that determines the quality of your life, determines whether you're happy or you're not happy, whether the quality of your life is good or whether it's not good. And then the other thing that determines the quality of your life is the circumstances that you find yourself in, right? Yeah, like being an American. The circumstances that you find yourself in. You could talk about it, the country you live in. You could talk about the body that you got. That's a circumstance. You could talk about the weather. You could talk about your financial reality, on and on and on, right? So you put the two together. The circumstances I find myself in and the person I'm being together add up to what's determining what it's like to be me. What's determining what my life is like. The quality of my life is like. And how do the circumstances and the person you are show up? How does it show up in your mind? In thinking. Does it not? Yeah. The thinking activity is where the circumstances and the person you're being occur. Isn't it? Yeah. Shows up in thinking, right? Shows up in thinking. The thinking activity, right? However, if through practice you're practicing paying attention in such a way that you pay attention to the breath and to the body breathing and even to the thinking activity, right? But not thinking, not being the thinking activity, but being aware of the thinking activity, right? Not being the thinking activity, but being aware of the thinking activity. Not being the body, but being aware of the body. Not being the breathing, but being aware of the breathing. So when you're paying attention to the breath and you move attention away from the thinking activity, some possibility begins to become available. The possibility of being. The simple, direct, unmitigated possibility of being. Being. What is being? It's a verb, right? Yeah. What is being? What is it that's being? When you're being, what's being? Consciousness, isn't it? Yeah, consciousness is being, isn't it? Yeah, being is being aware, isn't it? Yeah, being is being aware. And so when your attention is away from the breath, and when you practice that consistently over time, so that there becomes a possibility for being that is not a function of the thinking activity, right? Possibility for being that's not a function of the thinking activity. And as you practice this again and again and again, right, you keep repeating it again and again and again consistently every day for a period of time in a relaxed state, right? You're watching, you're witnessing what's happening, but you're not what's happening, are you? You're witnessing what's happening. You're being aware, aren't you? Yeah. And when you're being aware, the awareness you're being is witnessing what's happening, right? It's witnessing what's happening. It's witnessing breathing. It's witnessing the body. It's witnessing the thinking activity, right? But in practicing meditation, because you're paying attention to the breath and you're paying attention to the body breathing and you're paying attention to the thought activity, and you're not identified with any one of those, you begin to experience what it's like to be free in terms of the quality of your life being a function of the thinking process. You following this? And you start to experience freedom. It's not that you're experiencing freedom. Freedom is already the case. You were never not free. So it's not that you weren't free and then you become free. No, freedom is always the case. You simply begin noticing freedom. And I can tell you, and this is the kind of thing that really motivates me to do this, to teach, to be here and share, really, just to be here and share, is that just like you, I have circumstances, right? You got circumstances? Yeah, just like you, I have circumstances. And if I want to give my attention to those circumstances, and if I want to identify with the thinking about those circumstances, life is not going to be very good. Just like you, right? Just like you. I have circumstances. I have a person. There's a person here, or it seems so, right? There's a person here, has a name, right? I can tell you things about the person, just like you can tell me things about you as a person, right? There's a person here. That person got created and generated over many, many years through conditioning, right? Got a name, learned about who you are, You're a good person, you're a smart person, you're all of it, right? So, and I can tell you, so I have a person here too, right? And if I were to tell you about this person the way somebody would talk about themselves as a person, describing themselves as a person, right? If I ask you to tell me about yourself as a person, right? Normally speaking, under general social circumstances, people respond to a question like that by telling good things about themselves, don't they? Yeah. But is that the whole story? No. If you were really going to be straight about it, if you're really going to be brutally honest about the person you are, right? What would that look like? Right? What would that look like? You would have to then begin to reveal that you're fearful. You're a fearful person, aren't you? Yeah. You're an impatient person, aren't you? Yeah. You are a impulsive person, aren't you? Any of us who have difficulty with eating, that's an impulsive person, isn't it? Yeah. You're a reactive person, aren't you? Yeah. So you put together the person reality with the circumstances, and then you put all that together in the thinking activity. That's hell. Isn't it? That's hell. And I want to tell you that I have, there's a person here, and if I tell you my personal history, like you got a personal history, if I tell you my personal history, you'll feel sorry for me. And you're probably thinking, yeah, and if I told you my personal history, you feel sorry for me too, right? So we have a pity party. But you see, the thing about it is, even though that there's that personal history, and even though there's these circumstances, right? And I want to tell you these circumstances, I got circumstances that I challenge you all. I challenge your circumstances to be any better, any worse than my circumstances, right? Seriously, I've got some pretty negative circumstances. And yet, with all that being so, the practice of meditation consistently, moving attention away from the thinking activity to the breath over time, has allowed the inexplicable experience of happiness to occur. Has allowed the inexplicable experience of happiness to occur. This doesn't make any sense, does it? No. Because, and when you look at it and see, well, how's that work? How's this work? The way it works is being, the verb, being, that's what's happening in the now. That's what's happening in the present moment, right? Being, you're being here, aren't you? That's happening in the present moment, right? They say, the teachers and the Dharma say that the only possibility for happiness and well-being is in the present moment. Have you heard that? Yeah, the power of now, right? And so being is a present moment reality. Being is happening now. And when being is the experience that you're having, there's an experience of being happy. The being that you are is happy. It's not happy because. You follow this? The being that you are is not happy because. It doesn't need a cause. It's not happy because. It's happy to exist. Its happiness is a function of its existence itself. In spite of the circumstances and in spite of the person. So this is inexplicable. But you see, this is the thing that proves the point. This is the thing that is this is what there is to discover if you commit yourself. Even if the commitment comes out of your understanding, right? But this is what's possible if you commit yourself to doing a practice that will allow you to discover the truth, discover what's already the case. You're already the case, aren't you? Yeah, being is already the case. Aware consciousness is already the case. So this possibility can be discovered, and when it's discovered through the practice of not being who you thought you were, but allowing yourself to notice the awareness that is aware of the body, aware of the breath, aware of the thinking activity, that what starts to happen is this inexplicable happiness. There was a movie that was out many years ago. It was called The Incredible Lightness of Being. Did you ever hear this? Yeah. The incredible lightness of being. Just being is being happy. Just being is being satisfied. Just being is being content. Why? Because the being you're being when you're being who you are is not physical, it's not in time, it's not going anywhere, it didn't come from anywhere, it doesn't have anything, it can't get anything, it doesn't want anything. Why? Because it's already got it all. There's no place to get to when you're home, is there? There's nowhere to go when you are already there. And you are always already there. You are always already free. You are always already the truth. You are already what you are. And when you look at it this way, you can begin to see how meditation works. Because you practice being the way you are, didn't you? You didn't know you were practicing, did you? No, you thought you did. See, you didn't know you were practicing being Jerry. You thought Jerry was real. So there was nothing to practice, right? Jerry was real. You're just being Jerry. But what came along with that package is all the shortcomings of Jerry, all the concerns that Jerry has, all of what's going to happen to Jerry in time, all of what's going to happen to Jerry, the body Jerry in time. That comes with the package. So as Paul Hederman would say, the way out of this is the discovery through the practice of being aware. The way out of this is the discovery through the practice of being aware that you were never in it. The way out of this is the discovery through the practice of being aware that you were never in it. Does that make any sense? Because when you experience, when being is the experience you're having, the being that you're being is not a person. The being that you're being is not a body. The being that you're being is not in time. Therefore, you weren't in time, you weren't in a body, and you weren't a person. So you don't have to stop being that because you never were. Doesn't that make sense? But you do have to practice noticing that when the awareness is aware of the breath and the body, when the awareness is aware of the thought activity, the possibility for being exists. And it just happens. You see, I didn't say that I practice meditation, and through the practice of meditation and through the understandings that I have that motivates me to practice meditation, that I caused myself to be happy. I didn't say that, did I? I didn't say I made myself happy. I didn't say I did something that made me happy, did I? No. I said I just did what I did, and happiness happened. Happiness happened. That's the possibility. No, you don't have anything to apologize for. Misunderstanding is an honest mistake. Just like the honest mistake people make about who they are. You don't have to be sorry about it. Just stop making the goddamn mistake already. Right? What the hell's sorry going to do? This is the mistaken idea that you do anything, that you're a doer. People think I'm breathing, right? Well, that's just not true. There's no evidence for that.
So breathing is just happening.
That's right. Yeah, you can't even say the body's breathing. We don't even know what's happening, right? It's just that breathing is happening, right? Yeah, and when you're being aware of breathing, who are you? Then you're that which is timeless. Then you're that which doesn't breathe. Then you're that which isn't physical. Then you're that which is not a body. And by practicing that, you begin to experience the experience of being that, which is happy. Is this that really hard? But you start to develop a listening. If you start to develop a listening for the truth, this is possible. You can start to develop a listening for the truth, and if you develop a listening for the truth, you will be able to see very easily that the thinking that occurs is not true. And when you analyze any thinking and you really look closely at it, it's never true. It's never true. A thought is not the truth. It's a thought. It's an interpretation. So yeah, and that's why I'm emphasizing the idea that if you just practice meditation the way it's meant to be done, you will have an inexplicable experience of happiness at some point. It'll just happen. Because you have extricated yourself from being in the thinking activity. And when you're out of the thinking activity, you're in the possibility of being. You're in the possibility of existing as awareness itself. And that experience is one of being happy. No matter what. No matter what. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what condition you're in as far as your physical health is concerned. It doesn't matter what circumstances you have in your life. It doesn't matter who the person you are is. All of that all of a sudden has no matter at all, because what you are, who you're being, is not any of that. You know, it is a very desirable possibility, is it not? That's important, you know, because you have to have patience. You know, most human beings are stuck in the thought activity. When they try and get out of being stuck in the thought activity, they think about being unstuck. Right? They think about being unstuck. They think about how to be unstuck. Give me some advice. Tell me how to be unstuck. Tell me how to stop thinking. Tell me how to stop being a person. Tell me how to stop being a body. And what you discover through these teachings and practices is that that's not necessary. You don't have to stop being a person or stop being a body. Why? Yeah, you don't have to stop being something you never were. So you're practicing being what you are. You're practicing not being what you're not, simply by moving your attention out of the thought activity and allowing that attention to be aware of awareness, aware of the body and the breath and the thinking activity. And that awareness is always the same. It's unaffected. It's happy just to be. If you experience this, that'll make sense to you. It's happy just to be. And over time, what happens is that the activity of the mind naturally begins to slow down and calm down. Just by virtue of your being with it and not identifying with it. Just by virtue of your being with it and not identifying with it, it will gradually keep playing its thoughts and keep playing it, right? But that will gradually slow down. And as it slows down, it's easier for you to notice what's there, which is awareness, which is you. You will know. See, that's why the proof is in the pudding, right? You will know what I say is true if you establish a meditation practice, do it as it's meant to be done with consistency, and if you have an inexplicable experience of happiness, you will have discovered the possibility of being yourself. That would be good, right? Yeah, because otherwise this is not going to turn out well.